继续跟皮卡迪教授来做访谈。In the last part, we'd like to talk about country specific. First, I'll start with French economy. It seems that President Hollande is having a lowest approval rate recently. And this is because people is not really happy with his economic policy so far. One of the policy he's applying is the wealth tax. That is somewhat similar with what you have argued. But how do you see his policy so far? And is he following your advice in a sense?
No, not at all, unfortunately. No, you know, I think this has been a disaster. The Hollande presidency so far has been a disaster. In fact, you know, it all started, you know, at the end of Sarkozy and for the first 2 years of Hollande, you know, the French policy has done basically the same thing, which is to increase a lot the tax revenue. Not so much through the wealth tax, this is very small, but through value-added tax, through the income tax. You know, there was a huge tax increase for the entire population. And the objective was to reduce the budget deficit very fast. You know, this was the European strategy of reducing the budget deficit very fast. Now, the problem is that this has killed economic growth. And when you kill economic growth, how do you want to reduce the deficit? So at the end of the day, you know, the situation we have in France and in the Eurozone right now is that growth is close to zero, inflation is close to zero, and reducing a very large public debt like the one we have now with zero inflation, zero growth, you know, is almost impossible. So I think the Eurozone as a whole, of which France is an important part, and you know, made the wrong decision.
Is France this next time bomb for Europe?
I think the entire Eurozone is a time bomb. The entire Eurozone is a time bomb because 18, you know, you cannot have a monetary union with 18 different public debt, 18 different interest rates, and 18 different tax systems in competition with one another. So I think that we should have a much stronger political union, fiscal union of Europe with the Eurozone Parliament to decide in a democratic manner the level of the deficit, the level of the corporate income tax. You know, if we don't do that, I think the lack of confidence in the Eurozone will continue because financial actors and you know, all economic actors will always ask, okay, what is the next country on which there will be you know, an interest rate speculation. You know, it's very difficult to understand what the European leaders, and in particular the French and the German leaders, who are particularly responsible for this situation, want to do with their Eurozone. You know, do you really want to stay together or not? If you want to stay together, you have to put together your public debt, you have to put together your corporate tax. Otherwise, what's the point of having a common currency? And so it's not a problem of left or right, or you know, Hollande and Sarkozy, they were both very bad, so it's a problem of the, you know, the basic way we organize our Eurozone that is not working.
You're going to have a coordinated fiscal and debt policy, meaning that it's more centralized than before. It used to be a loosely confederation. Now it's become a union, more like that. But does that mean that you have to sacrifice each country's sovereignty?
Well, I think, you know, when you don't have monetary sovereignty anymore, this is a big loss of sovereignty. The problem is that either you take it back or you go further, but you cannot stop there, because if you only have a common currency without a common interest rate on your public debt and without a common corporate tax, then all what you have is competition between countries. And you know, the problem is that once you have a common currency, you cannot devalue your currency anymore. So the right policy for Italy or Greece or Spain, you know, a couple of years ago would have been to devalue their currency. Now they cannot do that because of the monetary union. At least in exchange, they should have access to a predictable interest rate on their public debt. But now they don't even have this. You have this huge interest rate differential within the Eurozone, which are not sustainable in the long run, and which shows, you know, the big lack of confidence in the Eurozone institution. So, you know, I think when you travel outside Europe and you look at Europe from far, and I travel a lot, you know, it is clear that this kind of institutional setting cannot work. You know, in the United States, if the Federal Reserve Bank had to choose every morning between the public debt of Texas, the public debt of California, the public debt of New York with different interest rates, you know, it would be a big mess, just like Europe.
You just come from China. What's the China economists talk to you? What's their concern, especially linking with your book?
Well, you know, China, seems to be, thinking of introducing some form of regulation of private property, some kind of property tax, some kind of inheritance tax. I don't know how serious they are about that. I think they should be very serious. I think you cannot, if you privatize public assets, and China has privatized a lot of real estate assets with huge increase in real estate prices. If you privatize your public companies, if you have a lot more private wealth in the country, which can be very good for efficiency purposes, then you also need to introduce some transparency about wealth, some registration of property rights, and the tax system that goes with it. In every developed country, you have a system of property tax, you have a system of inheritance tax. One problem in China, they have an income tax, but they have no property tax, inheritance tax, and even the income tax, this is the only country in the world where you have an income tax, but you have no income tax statistics. So nobody knows how the number of taxpayers by income bracket is changing year after year in China. So if they are serious about fighting corruption, I think they cannot just put a few people in jail from time to time. And I think if the Chinese government really wants to fight corruption, they need to introduce more fundamental fiscal reform, more transparency about income and wealth. So many people in China, seem to agree, but are they going to do it? I don't know. Maybe some people in power, don't want to pay more tax on the wealth that they have obtained through privatization, and so nobody knows what's going to happen. But I think, China should realize that they face a strong risk with capital flight. I don't think they don't want to become like Russia with wealthy oligarchs having a good life in Paris and London and living off the dividends taken from the Russian economy. I think this will be like the nightmare evolution for China, but this could happen, and they should be careful.
Lastly, your impression on Taiwan. I understand this is your first visit. It's only a short stay, 2 days. But how do you put Taiwan in your context of growth and inequality?
Well, coming from China, arriving in Taiwan, in the middle of an election campaign, of course, this is a different country, and it's nice to see, democratic discussion and elections, and all this very lively debate in universities and everywhere.
3 forums so far.
3 forums, very lively discussion, lots of very, interesting interventions of panel members, academics, a businessman, even a Supreme Court president or ex-president. Very interesting intervention. I think Taiwan like other countries, has gone through a rise in income inequality in the past 15 years, and maybe has a particularly strong problem with real estate prices and access to housing. But this is something that we find not only in Taiwan, in Japan and in a number of European countries. And I think there are solutions to this problem, and I think it's possible, to keep the sort of the economic success of Taiwan and the dynamism of the Taiwanese economy of the recent decades, and at the same time move to a social and fiscal system that gives more opportunities to the young generation to access property, to access jobs, and I know too little to say everything that should be done, but this is I think a very interesting example in a way of some of the evolutions that we also see in other countries as well.
Thank you very much for the interview, and then hope you can come back to Taiwan again with a longer time to appreciate what Taiwan is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.